Okay, so this is day 5 of my Lingoda video diary of really my French journey, and I am canceling a Lingoda super sprint. I'm done canceling it. It's over. I can't do this anymore. So last night was the kind of breaking point when I was going to cancel, and let me explain what happened. So basically, I signed up for A2 classes, 5 of them, and then 5 B1 classes because I tested into B1. Now, my writing and reading comprehension and grammar are very, very good because that's all I've practiced online and on the computer and on Fluence French, which I love. That I'm going to go back now and finish because I have more time now. But when it comes to speaking and just kind of thinking on my feet and not having time to sit there and like type out an answer, it's like not a good skill, and I need help in it. And I'm probably going to look into italki and maybe look into maybe doing a tutor once a week or something like that. So I need to practice that. And Lingoda is pretty good for what you get. It's basically like $10 a class if you do the maximum amount, and you get a teacher that's basically walking you through the material really, and correcting you in mistakes and helping with your reading if that's what it comes to. But man, after I did the couple A2 classes, a couple of them were really easy. I'm actually going to look at my classes now while I'm on with you. So basically what I'm looking at is my classes, and I started with really simple stuff. My first recipe, the teacher was like super nice. The first 5 minutes, as you saw in the other video, put me right on the spot. And then I decided I'm going to cancel all my B1 classes, but you have to do it within 7 days. So that means I'm left with 3 B1 classes. And here's the thing, is if it was B1 chapter 1, I'd probably be fine. But because of the way I scheduled it, you can't pick classes in chapter 1. Like, you can select just chapter 1 classes, but here's the thing, is that all of my classes were before 7 p.m. I mean, after 7 p.m. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 at night. It didn't matter to me. I did a class at 11 at night, and it actually was one of my better ones. It was the passive voice grammar, and that was chapter 5. So that was definitely a more difficult class, and I actually did fairly well there. That's actually the class where I probably learned the most. It was the most difficult. Well, not the most difficult actually, but the most difficult where I understood it still. But here's the thing: is with Lingoda, is everything is in French, en français, the entire time. So even the discussions and like the instructions are all in French. And like, I'm used to doing classes in English for like 10 minutes. Like, Fluence will give you 10 minutes in English and then the rest in French. So I'm used to being explained in English, and my brain kind of helps because explain the logic to me in English one time, and then I'll understand it. So for me, like with the passive voice, it's how to speak about things in a passive way. It's how like newspapers are written and things. That class actually means a lot to me. I actually really feel like I got a lot out of that. That said, I've taken 5 classes, and that's the one that I really feel will stick with me. The other ones were kind of like a little bit of just like survival. The first couple like weren't bad, they weren't hard, but I didn't get a lot out of them. But the passive voice, and then the one after that, I think it was vocabulary for a news feed, chapter 5. That was great. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, all of these are chapter 5. Like, I couldn't really take a lot of chapter 1 courses because they didn't fall into my time slot. And I'm pretty flexible. I'd go really late into the night as long as it's past 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. I'm not going to wake up super early. My schedule at work is very, like, all over the place. Sometimes I have a lot of time in the morning. Sometimes I have no time in the morning. Sometimes I work 12-hour days. So my schedule can be really difficult. Sometimes I've, really easy weeks. Sometimes the weeks are horrible. Sometimes I'm working on Saturdays. It's not a very flexible schedule. My schedule changes by the day sometimes, depending on clients. So what happened? Okay, so I had to survive the B1 courses that I took. Last night, Le Conditional Passé, this is B1 grammar, and it was covering a lot of future tense, which I'm not really comfortable with, and I haven't really learned on my own yet. And then today I have future tense course. So I'd basically be learning, and this is all in the B1. It's just different chapters, like I said, and it's hard to plan the chapter right. Even if you had all the time to schedule, it would still, if you're doing the super sprint, you're not going to get classes in a row. If I had just 30 credits and I had 3 months to use them, then what I would probably do is I would book it so I'm doing the classes in the order like an actual school, and I would book them while I'm at work, and I would do like on my lunch break, I would have a French class. It would work really well for me, but I signed up for the super sprint, and that's what got me into their program, and that's why it's completely going down for me. So what I'm doing is basically, last night was that B1 course that couldn't cancel, or I'd lose the super sprint. And then today and the next day are both the B1 courses, which the B1 course tonight is like something I've been interested to learn. But because of I spent 2 hours practicing before the class last night, my reading, my vocabulary that was used in the lesson, and the grammar that they're trying to teach you. And I didn't have to read it all. I didn't even need to know the vocabulary in the prompt. Actually, the teacher read the whole time, which is very unusual compared to the rest. But she had us do a lot of work at the end of it, and I just fell apart. I mean, honestly, the material's good. It's just the scheduling for the super sprint is incredibly difficult, and you need to be super flexible. If I had started this whole thing at A2, it would be kind of worth it, but at the same time, it's you don't need the vocabulary classes, unless they're going to keep coming up. And that's the difference with other programs like Fluence. Unless the vocabulary is going to be taught to you and it's going to keep coming up, if you're going to learn all the kitchen utensils, which I know most of them, I know most of the basic ones, but unless you keep learning it, unless it keeps coming up, you're not going to retain it. And because of the scheduling, I'm on chapter 1, chapter 5, chapter 2, chapter 6, and I have to be very careful I don't pick up a class that's final class, the worst of the worst. You have to have had all the other classes before you do this. It just made it really difficult. I know it sounds like I'm rambling. I'm just trying to explain how I came to the idea of I got one really good class in the 5 days. Even let's say you don't count the B1 course that I was a struggle last night. I have 4 A2 classes, A2.2 classes, and then I have my first recipe and subordination, space and time conjunctions. They didn't really do anything for me, but the passive voice and the newsfeed I really liked a lot. The writing an email, it was okay. It was okay, but it was oh, here's your subject, here's a signature, formal and informal signatures. And I understand why that kind of thing is important, but as somebody who writes professional emails on a daily basis in the United States, it's not really something that would ever be a problem. It's not even something that needs to be taught. It's kind of common sense. And not only is it common sense, but these are things that you could almost look up while you're doing them. I even look things up in English before I send an email to make sure I didn't misspell things. So it's kind of tough. I think that there's not waste of time classes, because they're not a waste of time. They're good. Anything that gets you speaking French is good. I didn't take a class I reviewed all of the material before. I always reviewed, and I would honestly do it usually an hour before. I would spend straight reading the entire lesson and making sure I fully understood it on my own before I even got in front of a teacher. What would work best if I could be confident going into a class that I didn't have to review before, and by the end of it I would understand it, or I would understand it by the end of it and spend a lot more time on my own to study. But that's not how it was going. How it was going was I was spending all my time before class making sure that I had a good handle on it. And then we did the class. It went well. It went okay. It doesn't matter. And then at the end, I would have to review, which is great. But the problem is that because of my work schedule and because of the next Lingoda class, I was already studying for the next class instead of retaining the information. How could this be different? Is it just me? No, I think that if the structure of the classes was better, like I'm just doing chapter 1, get through that, and then I can just do chapter 2. Maybe the courses should line up better with the super sprint. So that way, Monday they only do chapter 1, class 1. All of the teachers are doing that. It's less flexibility for people, but for people like me, I would get the entirety of chapter 1 in 1 week or 2 weeks instead of having to fight and try to figure out where I'm going to get these classes from and jumping all around the curriculum, which is like a nightmare. So, some French things in other programs like Fluence, I'll do one time and I'm fine. Other things I might have to redo 2 or 3 times. There's no rhyme or reason. Usually it's more intense grammar or very foreign things for English speakers to understand. But yeah, unfortunately, this thing it's causing me a lot more stress than I think it's worth. So, that's why I'm canceling. So basically, I'm going to attempt to cancel. How do I cancel my course? How do I reschedule? How do I cancel? I don't know how to cancel out of my super sprint. I think that I would just have to close out from my profile. Yeah, I'm not sure how to cancel. I'll have to reach out to their customer service. Honestly, again, it's like, I've paid for this first set. There's 2 more sets that I'm going to avoid paying for. But I paid for the first set. I should be canceling courses and just taking the courses that I want to take or courses that I think that I need help with or that I need to do. But I think it comes down to like the fundamental teaching of the class and, kind of that the awkwardness of it. And I think that for me and my schedule, it's easier for me if I start looking at like an individual tutor, especially somebody who's going to really like get to know me. And I need a tutor who will help me speaking in English. Like I need somebody who's going to speak to me and explain things to me, or give me prompts in English, or a conversation that we can work through. I think that I need more of a teaching touch. And that's to say that the professor last night, like the teacher last night, she was really good, but too advanced for me. I'm around an A2, but there was one teacher that I had in Lingoda. She's one of the French teachers, and she's of Middle Eastern descent, and she taught like a professor. Like when you would read, the way she would correct you, and because I've taken language courses in a college atmosphere before, she would teach like a professor, and he's probably the best one I had in Lingoda, just because she spoke with purpose and with authority, and she told you what you were doing wrong. And I really liked her a lot. I thought she was great. And like that's what I mean. If I could get like a tutor, and if it was someone like her, I think like spending like maybe 2 days a week or 3 days a week with her, or like probably 2 days a week, or like I do it like a Wednesday, like a Monday Wednesday kind of deal or something. I can prep beforehand, talk to her, record the session. I think I would get a lot more out of that. And am I upset? I did. You know what? My one tip, and I don't think anyone's going to even watch this video, but if you've watched this video and you've made it this far, which is amazing, my one tip would be buy Lingoda courses outside of the sprint. I'm going to make this actually a separate video so somebody actually watches it. But yeah, buy a fucking course outside of the thing. Don't do a super sprint with no, because if I had bought Lingoda courses, I probably would have sat down and been like, do I really want to possibly risk the amount of money for this? Or actually, if I had done a half sprint, it may have been better because I could have been a little bit more choosy with my classes. And also, I could have picked classes further in between, like further spaced out. So that way, I don't know, it probably would have been the same difference. Try it before you buy it, okay? That's the meaning of the story. I think it's good. I think I've seen people understand things and grow on the course, but again, I mean, I took like passive language. I felt like I learned a lot from that. But for me to retain it, I'm going to have to work on my own. And I wish the course forced more of that. Like, you've done chapter 1 and 2. Now chapter 3, we're going to review passive language. You already know this. Review the class material from your other class you took. But Lingoda is not designed that way, and it's not organized that way. I wish it was. So, I don't know. I don't know if I could recommend it. And it was very stressful for me. Probably because I picked all those B1 classes where, but it wasn't just B1. Like, that's the thing, is that I could probably go through a couple B1 courses and be completely fine. It was the B1 chapter 5. So instead of B1 chapter 1 or something like that, it was random courses in the middle of a curriculum that I had no idea what I was doing. Thanks for watching. Like I've said this before, if this helps one person, that's the goal, to help at least one person,